to our 2024 Directors Close-Up Spirit Awards edition. I am Maria Raquel Bossi, Senior Director of Education and International Initiatives at Film Independent. Before we start, I want to take a moment to thank the partners that make Film Independent's important work possible. Thank you to this year's incredible supporters of the Directors Close-Up, the Directors Guild of America, SAG Indie, and IMDb Pro. And thank you to our 2024 Film Independent Spirit Awards supporters, principal partner IMDb Pro, and official partners Bullet Frontier Whiskey, Fiji Water, Petite Flute Champagne, and Stella Artois. We so appreciate your support and devotion to the independent film community. We are really excited to kick off our series with the nominees in the Best Feature category. Personally, this is one of my favorite panels of our series because I find this is where the lessons learned are still fresh and vivid in the filmmaker's mind, perhaps even on their skin. And so I'm really pleased that we get to hear directly from you who are joining this panel about your experience and creative process today. Here with us, we have Tomás Gómez Bustillo, Director of Chronicles of a Wandering Saint. Hi, Tomás.
Hi, happy to be here.
Where are you joining us from?
In LA.
You're in LA.
Yeah.
Then next we have Raven Jackson. She's the director of All Dirt Road's Taste of Salt. Hi, Raven.
Hi.
What are you doing? Where are you joining us?
I'm from LA. I'm in LA as well.
Okay, great. And then next we have Savannah Leaf. She's the director of Earth Mama. Hi, Savannah.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Great. And are you joining us from LA too?
No, I'm in New York.
Great. Next we have A.B. Rockwell, director of 1001. Hi, A.B.
Hello. Hey there.
Where are you?
I'm in Los Angeles.
Well, we have a lot of people in Los Angeles for a change. And last but not least, we have Alejandro Rojas and Juan Sebastián Vázquez. They're the co-directors of Upon Entry.
Hi, how are you?
How are you guys? So
Good.
let us know where you are.
Tonight, Madrid.
Yeah, so we could all get jealous now. They're gonna go have tapas right after these and drinks.
Oh,
Yeah.
totally.
We already
Totally,
had
yeah.
some tapas. We're gonna keep having tapas.
Totally, yeah.
So I want to welcome you and thank you and congratulations for these amazing films. And now I would love to introduce our very wonderful friend from Film Independent, the moderator, Shelby Stone, who is the executive producer of The Chai, and as passionate as we are about independent film. And you're in great hands, guys. So take it away, Shelby, and thank you.
Oh, thank you so much, Maria. And I want to thank all of these amazing directors for giving us some time today to share their experience. I just want to say to anybody in the audience, if you have not seen these movies, you have to see them. They're extraordinary. They're all very, very different and just kind of transportive, these stories. And we are so lucky to have them all with us. And I just want to start by asking each of you, now we have a co-directing team, so maybe we'll start with Alejandro and Juan about Upon Entry, but something I'd love all of you to answer is, what made you choose this story for your first feature? What was it about this story that made you decide to get on the yellow brick road?
Well, I think
this always happens.
This happens.
We never know when
This
it
happens.
starts. Go ahead.
Sorry. No. Basically, for us, it was something. It was actually life itself, because both Sebastian and I have been through similar experience going through customs in the US because of us being Venezuelans. And we thought, well, they might be an interesting story there. So we started gathering around things that had either happened to us or friends or people that have come forward and talked to us about it. And the thing was that what was interesting, it was that we wanted to tell a story that is not usually known because, you know, when you go through customs and airports, it's a bit of a limbo. It's a place where you're neither outside or inside a country. And we just thought these stories are happening behind closed doors. And it usually regularly happens to people that have, in part a passport that is not, sort of approved in some countries, or is actually kind of not well being seen or whatnot. And we just thought, well, why don't we make a story and just shut these characters in there and try to put, a couple to a limit and see what happens. Yeah.
Great. AV 1001, which I had a surprise that was just shattering. I'd love to hear what made that be your first film.
Yeah, I think it's interesting because, the way you shaped the question, it was like, what made you choose this? And I feel like the story in many ways, chose me. I just really wrote about what was really on my heart. I think starting with just seeing how the Black communities or communities of color in general in New York, which is starting to be erased. And that in itself was already just very painful to witness. But what I realized is that the city had been hostile towards our community the entire time in terms of just the years of my upbringing or what would have been close to my upbringing. And so I really wanted to just show how hard it is for us to not only keep our families together under certain conditions, but also break generational cycles when there's just always some new external, exterior systemic obstacle for us to overcome. But I also really wanted to honor the experience of what it means to be like a woman of the city of New York City in a way that my main character Inez is, and really just honor, Black moms, like just the matriarchs of our community. And so often they're not matriarchs because they choose to. It's just the nature of circumstance. Often it's the nature of just the tragedies that they have to make sure to overcome, not only for the sake of their families, but also their communities, and doing this despite feeling so unseen, unappreciated, and unloved. And so I think so much of this story was me just showcasing how I wanted to love on them. It's me humanizing these complicated women that often don't have much of anyone's shoulder to really lean on when they're going through it and when they're in survival mode for their lives, for the entirety of their lives and for the sake of their families. And of course, there's the obvious elements of the story as well, just mother and son relationships, and really wanting to honor that, knowing what the foster care system can be like to navigate as well. And for people, the impact it can have on people's lives to go through it. I really wanted this movie to be an opportunity for a lot of voiceless people to feel seen and heard, in addition to just me just honoring the way I wanted my experience to be seen and heard. So.
Thank you. Raven, if anyone, again, I urge everyone to see all of these, but you made the most extraordinarily unconventional, in a way, in terms of structure film, and it was totally riveting, and would love to hear your journey towards All Dirt Roads Say So Salt.
Yes, thank you, Shelby, for those kind words. I was interested in playing with structure, and I had done that in my previous short film, Nettles. It was a chapter short, and I knew I wanted to do it in a longer form project as far as playing with structure. And so I came in knowing I wanted to do that from day one. And I was interested in it and fluidly exploring a life, and a question I asked myself a lot in the making of it is, if our lives were to flood, what are the moments that would rise to the surface, and how would they speak to each other, and swim within each other? And I really had that as my guiding light in the writing of the film, but also, of course, it's a fluid film. The process was fluid throughout. And so it really was being grounded in the knowing that I wanted to fluidly explore life and also show reverence to nature and have these characters be very close to nature. I grew up fishing. The character and the main character in the film grew up fishing. And so it's a fiction film, but there are a lot of details that hold truth for me. And so, yeah, it was really an organic finding and trusting what moved me that landed me to the film.
Interesting. And then Tomas, do you want to talk about Chronicles of a Wandering Saint?
Yeah, sure. So I think the movie really starts for me as as a rejection towards my previous work in a way. Like I feel like I was straight up out of film school and I'd done stuff that was like way too serious and pretentious for myself. I felt like I was putting on kind of a mask in a way. And so I wanted to make something that was playful and just took the filmmaking less seriously and just had more fun with it. And it came from that kind of intention, as well as this more like what AV was saying was like the film kind of chose me in a way. Like there was this image that I couldn't shake, which was of this silhouette. It was full of light in the middle of this darkness, and that even though this person felt like perfect, they still felt lonely, and so I wanted to explore that image, and through that image began the development process. And naturally, being Argentinian, I also wanted my first film to take place in my world, and to really start my career as an Argentinian filmmaker, and showcase a little bit of the places that I know, that I love, and that maybe haven't been seen on screen before either.
Cool. And last but not least, Savannah, beautiful Earth Mama.
Yeah. Wow, this is really great to hear everyone's journey into making their films. Yeah, I think Earth Mama came from me just thinking about what it's like to be a child, that doesn't have one of their parents around through their upbringing, like trying to understand why they're not parenting you. And then also kind of, I guess, thinking about all the mothers that have impacted me throughout my life, and kind of commemorating them, and recognizing, all they've had to fight through. And I don't know, I guess like someone told me that like silly saying that I guess is kind of true because I ended up doing it. It's like tell the story that you're like itching to tell, or like that's within you. And I think that's just what this was. It's like I wouldn't know how to write anything that didn't like come from within your like, or within my stomach, within there. And so it just kind of came out of me. But so that's what it is.
Wow. Well, that's a kind of a unifying feeling I think all of you have. And one of the things that I also would love for you to talk a bit about, each of you, is, okay, so this story was burning a hole, and it was really important for you to tell. What was that process like of finding, whether it was producers and the money and your cast? Tell us about that, because that's everyone, I think, in the audience, and certainly for me, that's hard. That's not an easy thing. It's not a guaranteed thing. So I would love to hear more about that from each of you. And I can, if you don't want to just spontaneously start talking, I'm fine to sort of try to guide. Should I guide?
Yeah.
Okay. How about we start with AB? All of you have super impressive producing teams along with everything else. So it'd be helpful to hear that.
Yeah, I think just thinking about how things came together with my collaborators, my producing team, which was Sight Unseen, Hillman Grad, and Make Ready. I had done a short film called Feathers, which got a lot of love on a festival circuit. Like I played at Toronto and I played at Sundance and many others. But actually prior to that, like I think I had just finished the short and I did a private screening for it here in Los Angeles. And so what I thought was that I would take it on the festival circuit, and that would be the thing that opened the door for me to meet all the people that would help me complete my first film. But it was actually that private screening that I had that ended up being very pivotal, because by that point I had taken some meetings around town, and I met each of those parties that became my producing team. And so what happened is that even though they saw the short, I invited them out, like, yeah, sure, if you're not up to anything. And they came through, and I think after that screening, they came together just to say that they really believed in me as an artist and wanted to support whatever I had in mind for my first feature. So that was just amazing for me, and it was one of those things where I had a plan, but I couldn't have foreseen how it came together. And so they really saw through the whole process with me of just developing and writing and shaping the movie into what I wanted it to be. And then after that, we took it out, and that's when Focus came on as our distributor, and that really, I think just all parties involved, which is so pivotal, and me telling the story that I really wanted to tell. But I, that type of thing that doesn't really happen, and that I didn't expect to happen. And I don't even know what the landscape is as of as of this year, if it'll happen the same way. But I was just really fortunate, for that.
Tomas, tell us about how Chronicles of a Wandering Saint came together.
Oh my God. I just don't know how to start. Man, like whenever I get this question, I always feel like, when people ask you like, what is the biggest challenge in making a film? It's like this period for me. Because I try to do like all the typical, like, typical routes of like going through labs and submitting through like all these different regular avenues. But I had to deal with a lot of rejection during like 3-4 years, and that I think that is such a like a test, of whether or not you really want to tell a story and why you want to tell it. Is it just for you to like start working, or is it because you're itching to tell it? But fortunately, I was able to find people who wanted to champion it, and they came from the same school that I went to. It was a production company that I co-founded with my friends called Plenty Good, and our commitment to each other's work was the thing that I feel like really pushed it through all the rejection, all the challenges of shooting a tiny feature in a very, very distant, remote part of the world, with everything that it implies, and without the support of any larger entities. So we tried to play by the book. We got rejected, and fortunately, I had an amazing team that we all just powered through and believed in it. And fortunately, we survived and made it out to the other side.
I love that. I love Amy's story, and I love both Cinderella stories in very different ways, and really makes that phrase of what doesn't kill you makes you stronger sounds like very applicable, Tomas.
Definitely.
I'm glad you're sitting here. I'm glad you survived. Alejandro and Juan, do you want to talk about how Upon Entry came together?
Yeah, so I'm a DOP, I'm a director of photographer. I've worked with Carlos Torres, who is the producer of our film, as his DOP. He's a producer director. And at the time, he had a company that he was mainly interested in producing his own films. And I remember I showed him the film, I sent him the script, which I think is something that you definitely need to do with your first film. You don't share the idea, you need to have your solid script ready. If someone gets interested in reading it, you have to have it ready, at least the first solid draft. So I sent him the script like 11 times. He didn't read it. And then after a good friend of ours, who's the editor of his movies, which he's also nominated because he in the Spirits Awards because he edited our films, he was like, you really need to read the script. that's when things started to happen. That's when things started to get together. When he was like, "Oh, okay, so you have a script that I think works," and that was the moment in which he started actually to producing more film than his own. But if from the outside, some people tell me like, "Oh, well, you already work with this guy, so it was really easy for you to hand him the script." And I was like, "No, like people, the producers, they just have attention in so many things at the same time that you really need to do something special, like to get them to read the script." And I think for us, we didn't do like a synopsis at logline. We just had the script because we thought that was the only way that people were going to get interested in the project, and it worked the same way with the actors. There were actors that had won the best award that they could win in Spain, the Goya, and the fact that they didn't read a synopsis, a project, they just got the script and wrote it. I think it was way better than just going to the traditional way of like pitching like a small line that could define the project. So even we had the connections, it took a little bit of effort to make them get involved with the project.
That's great. Perseverance. That's what I keep hearing. I love it. Raven, do you want to talk about how All Dirt Roads came together?
Yes. So in earlier stages of the writing process, I submitted the script to the Indie Memphis Black Filmmaker Residency for Screenwriting. And I literally submitted at the last minute, 11:59 p.m. And later, I didn't notice at the time when I submitted, but Barry Jenkins ended up being a judge of the residency. And I ended up getting it. And, I said, thank you briefly once I won. But a few months later, once the script was in more advanced stages and we started sending it out, we sent it to his company, Pastel, that he runs with Adela Romansky and Mark Sariak, and they officially came on board. And so that was a beautiful thing that, he selected for the residency, and then we officially partnered with them. And we being myself and Maria Altamirano, who was a producer on the film from inception, was also on Nettles. And Joe Mofrey was also on Nettles, and he's a cinematographer of All Dirt Roads. So it was nice to find Pastel, but also to grow with people, who I went to film school with. And then eventually, once the script was at a pretty very solid stage, we connected with A24, and they came on as a financier as well as a distributor.
That's great. Never know what happens when you apply to those programs. And all kinds of magic or none, Tomas, as you were talking about. Savannah, talk about Earth Mama, like how that came together.
Yeah. Well, I guess like I had never done a script before. I didn't do like film school or anything. So so I was kind of terrified. I don't know if you guys were, but like the idea of like sending a script for the first time to anybody is like probably the most terrifying thing. Even if you're on like your 20th draft, like that first moment is like, it just was so scary. And I also knew nobody in the, film industry. I was coming from commercials and music videos, mainly just because I needed to make some money to like survive and like try to make art, and so the first people I sent it to were the commercial production companies that I was working with, and some of them, one of them does features and the other one doesn't really, but they have a few feature directors, and so they connected me with some other producers, and I don't know, it was really amazing because they really understood me as a filmmaker. And what I'm trying to do. And I think like, if you've watched, the shorts I've been doing and paying for with the commercials I've made, like you can kind of see the same tone as what I am doing even today. And like, I made this short doc, which was called The Heart Still Hums, which was also kind of like research, emotional research for the feature length. And then I was just like writing more drafts. I think I got to like 30th draft or something before we, tried to get it financed, and Film 4 came on to help develop it. So it kind of felt like what everyone's saying, like you just kind of push it into becoming a thing. But I totally agree with you, Juan. I think you were saying like having the script felt like it was the proof I needed, just like finishing a script for people to actually read. And like, I don't know if I could ever just pitch like an idea out there. Like, I think I need the script every single time now, because there's something so, it just feels so nice to be able to hand somebody that thing, but it's terrifying at the same time. I've been thinking about that so much now that I'm like trying to emotionally move into like the next space, so yeah.
So one of the, all of you have found in these journeys, these amazing actors who do more than inhabit, but become something else, right? In the telling of these stories that, you fought so hard to tell. And I would love for you to just talk about like, how did you, what was the process of finding, because each of you, all of you have really extraordinary casts. And that's a testament to you as a director. It's also very much a testament to, the actual performers who found this way of helping inhabit this story.
Oh, well, I don't know. For us, it was, Carlos Torres, our producer. He knew Alberto Aman, the lead, and he proposed it to us a few years ago, and we were thrilled with the idea of it because we admire him a lot as an actor. He's probably best known for his work in Narcos, but he's from Argentina, actually, and he's been living in Madrid for quite a while, and he immediately connected to the story because he has migrated himself to Madrid, and he's been living a long time here, and he knows about these processes. So in a way, he deeply connected to the character, and that kind of made us feel at ease with him. And he's a great person, and he's a great artist, and he's also a magician with accents, which was something terribly important to us because he's actually portraying a Venezuelan. And he's not only actually portraying a Venezuelan, but he's actually portraying a Venezuelan who has lived a long time outside from Venezuela. He was actually doing two things at the same time, speaking like the Spanish Venezuelan, but also speaking English as a Venezuelan who lives outside. So all of these things combined with his artistry and trying to integrate it to his character, and also making a character that he hasn't been known for, because it's actually a very introverted character. It's a very insecure one. So it came across as something very special for us, right? And Bruna, which is, practically the other half of the film, and she's from Barcelona, Bruna Cusi. We always had her on the radar because she's very natural, she's very intuitive, and it just so happened that they have the same agency, and then it was easy to contact her, and for us it was really important to have that second half to be as truthful and honest as the other half. And she has this kind of ferocious naturality about things, and she's actually a very analytical process actress, but what comes across is actually very intuitive. And I think both of us have no idea how she does it, and I don't know if we want to know, but we were actually like just happy to be there for her and for him and try to, work this thing through, because it's actually, for us, it's a movie basically based on 4 actors talking to each other,
In a room,
Yeah.
which is
Yeah,
amazing.
yeah.
Very hard to
Yeah.
pull off. But it
Right.
was funny because the moment the movie started, I can't say everyone,
Mm.
but my first response was, oh, that's the guy from Narcos, because he made such an impression on me in that character. And yet he was totally the opposite. And it was, such a testament to both of you as directors and also to him, because I can imagine he's been quite typecast since that show.
Yeah,
Probably.
he was. I mean, for us, it was good that he was representing another version of the stereotype of, what a Latino does, which is completely different. But also, you have to add a little bit of a story for us who are like, first film feature directors. We wanted Laura Gomez. Laura Gomez, she comes from Orange is the New Black, right? Like that show that is known everywhere in the world. And we definitely wanted to work with her. And I mean, I don't want to, it's hard when you're making an independent film to get to big names and people who really need to understand what is making an independent film, and an independent film in Spain, which is probably a way lower budget than in many other countries. And it was like, how are we going to do to work with Laura Gomez? And we figured out that her manager was going to ask us pretty much the whole money that we have for shooting the film. And I was lucky enough to have a friend who's a script supervisor. She has worked in the Green Book, in many big productions, Federica Arevalo. And she's a friend of mine. We went to university in Caracas together. And I was there just like looking at Instagram. And she's like, hi, I'm here in New York. I'm just drinking a beer here with my friend Laura Gomez. I was like, this is a joke. This is definitely, this cannot be happening. So I was like, Federica, I need to ask you a favor. I need to talk to Laura to send her the script and see what she thinks about. But, those are the things that I think you have to do, and you have to be eager enough to like, I'm going to try, because might be my only chance to get the person that we've been trying to contact, and it's been impossible, from this film in that weird country called Spain, from 2 guys from Venezuela. It's like, first film, how do we get Laura? And it was through Instagram, because my friend decided to choose to share a story of their drinking a beer somewhere in Brooklyn. And it was like, oh, this is great. And she read the script and she was like, I deal with my manager. I want to do this film. So go for it.
Oh, that's a great story. Apparently stalking Instagram is another good way to get your movie made.
Maybe.
Why not? I think that's great. It would be wonderful, Savannah, if you want to talk about it. I had never seen Tia. I hope I say her name right. Tia Nomore. Tia.
No, it's Tia no more, no less is what she says. But yeah, Tia. So Tia
Amazing.
has never acted before. And we were kind of looking everywhere for our lead talent, like every actor, theater actor, all over the place. But I was also really felt like I really would have loved to have like someone from the Bay who's also a new mom, and we were at the time looking at different types of performers in the Bay, because this film is like, she's in every single one of the scenes. So whoever it is has to have some sort of experience with performance, just because it's taking a lot on their body and their mind throughout that whole kind of shooting experience. And so while we were kind of looking at more experienced actors, we met Tia, who's this Bay Area rapper who had just had a kid a year prior. Her first child. And so it was like the physicality of being a mother or holding a baby in your belly was very, prominent in her body. And her instincts were just so natural and powerful. And this character is very different from Tia. Tia, if you meet Tia, she's like very outgoing, comical. Like she's kind of in many ways the opposite of this character, because this character is more like me, which is kind of quiet and reserved and has to deal with obstacles by oftentimes keeping things inside of her, so as to not make these systems think that she's not fit to parent. So Tia is having to really get into character in a way that I think people don't fully realize that she's really acting, so Tia, like, we saw, or I saw the first casting tape she did with the casting directors, and then we met and we had tons of rounds, and then we did like a month and a half of prep before the film, and really just found the character together and kind of leaned on each other to find this character within both of us. And then having kind of the support from more experienced actors like Erica Alexander, who we all know and love, but kind of showing another side of herself, or a side that maybe we haven't seen for a while. They kind of also were able to bounce ideas off of each other. Erica's teaching her how to leave set and not take, what happens on set home with her when she goes and sees her family. And I think that's something that was really beautiful as well, seeing how experienced actors can also help new actors and kind of their understanding of what acting means, for them.
Yeah, I think Erica's such a presence in your film. And it was nice to know she was a discovery for you, because I had never heard of her and I was just knocked out of my socks. Really, congratulations. So
yeah, amazing.
Yeah, she is. Do you want to talk about the famous Monica Villa, Tomas, and how you connected with her for your film?
Yeah, absolutely. Monica is kind of a legend in Argentina, so she was always out of our reach. And I had a similar story to Juan and Alejandro, where when I started attaching like department heads to the film, the DP was like, I went to school with Monica Villa's son. It's an in. It's not much, but we can try. And I was like, you know what? Why not? And so we very unashamedly just got her number, and I just called her up so randomly and completely took her by surprise. But I did the classic, little like 2-minute pitch, and I don't know, maybe the adrenaline like kicked in, and I did like a better job than I would normally do, because she was interested and didn't hang up the phone on me, and instead it was like, send me the script. And I sent her the script, and she read it that afternoon, which was amazing. And then similarly to Laura Gomez and your story, she was like, let me deal with my managers. I want to make this, and we're going to figure out a way to do it. And then I was completely ecstatic and also just so freaking nervous, because it was Monica Villa, and she's like, she's a total badass. She's the best. And then, once we had her, things kind of start to fall into place. But I had to give a shout out to my casting directors, Mariana Sanguinetti and Yair Said, because they did the classic approach and the non-traditional approach to casting, where, for example, the co-lead, Horacio Marazzi, he's done a few acting roles, but in Argentina it's very hard to act and like live as an actor. It's already difficult in the US, but in Argentina it's like 100 times even more difficult. So he's a part-time electrician as well, so finding people like that, or Angel character, which I don't want to reveal too much about if you haven't seen the movie, but there's an Angel character, and he's like an accordion player, and so looking in non-traditional spaces to find the people who already bring like a huge personality and character and depth to the character and to the screen is such an amazing thing when casting directors can help you do that. So it was, that was kind of the story with Monica and a little bit of the rest.
Oh, that's great. Well, I'm going to save Raven for last, because I think you might have a different experience. Avi, Tiana Taylor has broken the internet probably 780 times. And she certainly broke it again when it came to your movie and her performance, which I think just was breathtaking. So if you would talk about that a little bit, how you connected with her. I mean, everybody in your movie is amazing, but she seems to have become a lightning rod. So
thank you. Yeah, I mean, I'm incredibly proud of her and so happy, just with all the love and support and admiration that has been shaped around her performance and the phenomenal job she did in this movie. But it wasn't obvious to me when her name was first mentioned in the casting process, because I looked everywhere. I looked at, every casting list, hundreds of audition tapes. I was on social media looking for a fresh discovery. Like I really, casted a wide net because I didn't know where we were going to find her. And I know that Inez's experience is not every Black woman's experience. So I, as much as there's like many actresses working in Hollywood that would have been, great to have in my first film. I needed to know, I needed to see it. I needed to really feel like this is somebody who knows this woman or has been this woman in a certain chapter of their life, and therefore they will love her in a way that I need them to, and not judge her. As complicated as Inez is, and I found that in Tiana. Like by then I had seen so many tapes, I had seen so many versions of what just wasn't right, what I wasn't looking for, because it needed to be someone who not only understood her, but also really felt like home to me. Like she really did need to feel like a New York City woman. And so by the time I got to Tiana's tape, I just felt it instantly. I think she was just so raw and pure in her performance. And she really got all the nuances, even just in her first readings. She got all the nuances of the characters in ways that I just hadn't seen by that point. And I think my casting director, A.B. Kaufman, felt the same way. And that was just so exciting and refreshing for me. And then I had to open myself up, because when her name was first thrown out, I was like, don't try to, for lack of a better way to put it, don't try to play me. Because Tiana, by that point, she hadn't done anything like this before. And I didn't want people to think that I would cast somebody just because they're from New York or just because they're from Harlem. Like, those are very superficial things. I wanted a character that somebody was really pulling from their heart and their soul, to deliver a really like three-dimensional performance. But she gave that. She earned it fully in her own right. And I could really tell just based off of the auditions rounds we went through and the conversations that we had early on that Tiana had a story to tell, just her own experience, that I knew that she had a lot on her heart and that she would be able to channel it through this character, which she did so beautifully.
No, I'm not inventing the wheel, because every interview, every review of your movie, she is a discovery. Like, I don't think I've never had any idea she could do and go to the depths that she went to. So congratulations though to you. That's what all of you as the director, because as the director, you helped this performer arrive at the vision of the story that you so wanted to tell. So that's like a big kudos to you, as much as sometimes the critics and people tend to focus on the actor. You guys are in a partnership. And I think that that's sometimes not highlighted enough, is the role of the director in the performance, but it should be. So congratulations.
Yeah.
Raven, your movie was one of these movies where I know that people, I did some research. I know people have been in other movies. I've never seen, I just felt like I was discovering people like in every frame, people I thought I'd never seen, and versions of them that I thought I'd never seen. So I'd love to talk about or hear from you, the process of how you, in this memory poem, this love story to particularly Southern Black culture, like, how did you find these people?
Yeah, it was a lot of trust in the process, and letting and trusting when folks fall away that you'll discover the right person, because it's needing to cast for folks who haven't seen the film. So for the lead role, there's 4 different people who play this role, so it's needing to cast across a few roles, like folks to play the same person. And also it's like a larger cast. And so I knew going in, it would be a challenge. And so I really just going in, learned to trust the process, but also to trust what moved me. I think I'm really big on that. And I knew going in that I wanted to work with a mix of first-time actors and more known actors. And so I knew that going in. And so for the lead, the Mac you see the most in the film, who's late teens to early 30s, her name is Charlene McClure. She's actually a friend in my life. She's a poet. And we were in the park one day and I just saw it. Like I was, something sparked to explore it with her. And she has some resonances with the character. She has a natural vulnerability, but also just practically her face can carry a lot of years, which I need for that character to believably play late teens to early 30s. And so after exploring a lot with her, it landed that it was her. And Reginald Helms Jr., who plays Older Wood in the film, he's a musical artist, he's a rapper. And I was in the production day. Someone I thought might be Wood had fallen away. And so I was just Googling, I think I said musicians in the South. And Reggie, one of his videos, Southside Fade, came up. And when I watched it, he's just so expressive with his body. He has amazing eyes. And I love hearing how folks are connected with the actors, but for him, someone on my production team knew someone in his management team. And so we were able to get into contact that way. And then after we talked, after there was a chemistry read with Charlene, it was clear it was him. And it's also to what Savannah said about it was his first time performance as an actor, but he knows how to perform. You know what I mean? He knows how to be looked at on set, to be looked at, which I think is big when you're asking a person who's newer to acting to just be in their body with a big camera and people around, And then we had Sheila Atim, who's amazing. And when I met her, when I came into our conversation, or we had our conversation, I discovered she was familiar with the practice of eating clay dirt, which I didn't know coming into it, it was important for me for that role for the person I cast to be familiar with it. And we had a great conversation around that. And so I just knew, and plus she's so expressive. The role does not have a lot of dialogue. And she just embodies that character fully. And Grandma Betty in the film, she was at an open casting call in Memphis. And she was there with her daughter, her grandchildren, and she was not auditioning. I was like, who is she? Because I already cast Charlene at that point, as there was a resonance. And she also had a gold tooth in her mouth where my mom used to have hers. And so it's just a lot of trusting what moves me, and trusting the resonances, some of the talent had with the characters. And Kaylee, who plays younger Mac, she told me crying is fun. And I was like, it's you. But no, she also has such an emotional maturity. And so it was a bigger cast and a lot of just trusting the process.
That's amazing. Really amazing. And again, everything I said also goes for if you're working with people who are newer. That's really such a beautiful process for you as a director, for any of you as directors to help someone new to the process and also somebody who's not. And I just really celebrate all of you as directors for finding that on set, finding that in the audition process or the meeting process or the Instagram process, all of it, because it's, it's not easy and none of it is easy, but that's especially not easy. So we're getting close to when we open it up for Q&A, but I would love all of you to kind of jump in and talk about just, the process of being on a set. Some of you have done commercials. I know AB, you've done commercials, you've done shorts, Savannah. All of you actually have had some set experience. What's that like for your first feature? Who are your touch points? How do you navigate? Well, we know, Juan, how you became DP, but like, how does that work for all of you? How did that work? What did that feel like?
I mean, for me, it was like I'm a DP, so I've worked in film. So basically, I feel like I was again in my natural environment, but being able to talk to the actors and tell them what they do. Sometimes as a DOP, you're like more, of course, you don't talk about the interpretation and the doing this and that, just mainly about positions, light blocking, and that's it. But it felt like really, I don't know, it felt like it was something I wanted to do for a long time, just being able to talk and be able to express more and work more as a team. I think that's the thing that got me through to understand, especially with this actor, was you direct people on what they are good doing. So you're like really asking them for different options. And it was like, so I don't know. I definitely understood whenever a director told me like, we have to shoot this now. And I was like, but we don't have the light ready. And I definitely understood like, yeah, but the actor is at the perfect moment. We need to shoot this. So it was for me like, oh, okay. I've been in many sets, many movies, but it feels like it was in a film set for the first time this time as a director. And I think it was beautiful. And now I'm tempted in staying in dark side of directing. Yeah.
I guess for us it was like this thing also about co-directing, which it's like it can be difficult to make decisions on your own, let alone two minds together. But in this case, we had the great fortune that we knew each other for like a long time ago. We shared the same references, and yeah, man, the work was a lot easier with Sebastian being a DP because he knew how to do those quick turnarounds, made very, very quick and very efficiently. And for us to be able to concentrate on these actors and the situation and follow them, which we actually shot chronologically, which doesn't always happen, but that made it all feel more real, more immersive, and in a way, I feel as a first-time director, and this time, and in this case, co-director with Sebastian, that whenever we had an idea, if one would run out of fuel, the other one would push further, and then the other one would push even further, and then at some point we would get to somewhere a lot faster than if we were on our own. But that was our case in this case, and because we kind of we wanted to make the same film, that kind of it worked to our advantage. Yeah.
So interesting. Anyone want AV, jump in?
So what was it? I just want to get centered on your question again. So what was it like directing the first feature?
Yeah, just being on set. Like, did you have a touch point? These two had each other, Alejandro and Juan, and Juan also being a DP. But for you, what was that? Was it your DP, your producers, an actor? How did your crew come together, and how did you feel like that worked for you?
I mean, I think it's tough. I mean, I think it was challenging making this movie, and it's and it's a very big movie in certain ways, even though it's a small movie. And so I think it was a process that was really challenging. And I do think that like my producers, I did appreciate the amazing support system that they were through all of it. And I think that helped a lot to keep me centered, in addition to just remembering like why I made this movie, who I made it for. You know, I think those things made it just helped to keep me grounded and focused, as I was just kind of like fighting to get through the wilderness of like what it can be like. Cause I think making your first movie is really challenging, because even though I made tons of shorts, you know, I made a large number of shorts. I've done commercials, done music videos. But yeah, I think in many ways those things prepared me for it, for making my first film. But at the same time, it's still a new experience, you know. And so I just really had to be nimble. But yeah, I think that having them, and then of course I just appreciate my actors so much, and my crew, you know, because I think also making this in New York in the height of the summer, during a pandemic, it was a lot of elements, you know. When you're already trying to make a small movie and you have all these other things, it just kind of takes it up that much more, the stress levels. But everybody had to be committed. Everybody had to be determined to fight through it in order for us to get through to the finish line. So yeah, I think I just tried to live in gratitude and live in just what actually brought me out there in the first place, you know.
And just quickly before somebody else jumps in, what was the process of finding your DP like?
For me?
Yes. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
One to answer, but also you. Yes.
Yeah. Well, Eric KU, my DP, and it was pretty straightforward. You know, he just came off a recommendation that I received, and I saw the first feature he had done, which I thought was just so beautifully shot. And so we met and obviously connected over the film, connected over being New Yorkers as well, and we both grew up in Queens. But I think I just really feel like we shared a sensibility. So that's how I found Eric. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, you know, I think I caught myself on the first day of set, trying to work in the more expected way, or the way I assumed I should be working, but I had to check myself and say, Raven, what do you need? You know what I mean? What process is going to get the best work out of you? And so my touch points were for sure Maria Osperano, who was producer, was also in Nettles, and a close friend, but also Jomo Frey, the DP of the film, who was also in Nettles. And Jomo and I would take long walks in between setups, you know, just talking about the scene, talking about feelings, talking about, you know, pivotal things to get on set. And I know those walks were like little resets. And also I would give myself, you know, a walk to just reset for myself. But yeah, it was a process of discovery those first couple of days of really learning what I need. And because it's a bigger crew, you know, I mean, I've been on I hear what AB's saying, because you've done other things, but this is, you know, still your first feature. And so it was a lot of learning, you know, what do I need? Which that's for me, that's less people around. And when we're shooting with the actors, and, you know, maybe playing a little music, you know, if it feels right. But, you know, I'm grateful for everyone who helped bring the film to life, because we really came together to create the film.
Cool. Tomas, do you want to take a?
Yeah, I just didn't want to interrupt Savannah if she was about to try again. But sure, yeah. Man, I don't know. I feel like when you show up on the first day of set and you see all the trucks coming in and the people getting off, in my case, buses, and it's kind of like a crazy moment. It's because, I mean, we thought we were starting and we shut down 3 times. So the third time was a charm, and it was kind of like a miraculous thing. And at some point, it also hits you when you see all of that. I don't know if this happened to you guys, but it happened to me, where you see all of these like resources and people and commitment of time and money and energy, and then suddenly you're like, oh shit, like I'm sorry, I don't know if I'm supposed to cuss or not, but
Okay.
I don't. I'm like, I'm the director, right? I have responsibility with all these people, and I kind of had to find like a way to kind of hack my anxiety about it so that I wouldn't like overdo things or over rush or overthink. And so the way that I would do it was I was just pretending in my head that this was a practice film. You know, like it was, if it was absolutely terrible, I wouldn't have to like show it to anybody, and that was it. You know, so I could just do it as a practice, and then having a crew. I had a friend of mine tell me, you know, cast your crew with the same amount of intention that you cast your actors, because you're living with those people for a while, and it's not just their talent that you need to count on. It's also their like humanity and their compassion and their patience, and so that was really important to me. And fortunately, with the care that I took in building the team, I had a bunch of touch points on sets for whenever I got nervous or needed walks, and so that was a similar process for me, where I had my DP, I had my production designer, and I had my two producers who I always felt like I could step away, consult with, talk about, huddle, and come back and be ready for the next shot.
That's so important. I love that. I love the taking walks. I love just raising your hand or not raising your hand, but admitting that you just need a break, because it's all can be so overwhelming.
And I find it generative, like the answers come. You know what I mean? When I for me, it's a part of the process for sure.
Yeah, no, I believe in walk. I learned to do walking meditation many years ago because I couldn't shut my brain up for just sitting. So I found that like moving meditations, even if you don't call it that, are really help for me. I have a dog, so I would like walk the dog, and that like cleared out the cobweb.
Yeah. So you guys were saying some incredible things about finding your teams and who you leaned on. I guess I could say like a million things, but this is such making a film is just like, it takes so much out of your body and over the course of a long period of time. And there was people like my DP, Jody Lee Lipes, who was way more experienced than me. And there was a moment, and I keep recalling this, which was like less than a week before production, we didn't have all the locations, and I just like burst into tears because I was like, fuck, I don't have all the locations. And he was like, nobody has all the locations. But for some reason, I thought like you had to have everything in place before you start shooting, and that's kind of like the difference for me between like these shorts or commercials or music videos is pretty much all set in place before you start shooting. Whereas like the feature, sometimes you're still casting, location scouting, you're like doing all these things and shooting. and then you're like, you were the reason why everyone's there. Like you've got this kind of like what you were saying, Tomas, which is like your little weird idea, like, and then you had to convince all these people to be here. And there's like nobody else but you. That's the reason why this thing started. And so it's just kind of like the buildup of all of that. And so, yeah, people like Jody were kind of great people to lean on, and my producers, and even the cast. Like I have people, that have never done this before, just like me in terms of the feature film, but we are by each other's side through it all. And also my partner, and taking time by myself as much as possible. Like I'm kind of a solo individual. Like I need that quiet space. And so trying to find that space when people are asking you a billion questions, So yeah, I could say a million things, but like everybody, like there's not one person that doesn't contribute to the success or the motion of the film,
I love that because I think it's a really scary experience. I think it terrifying. And I love that, people are willing to admit when it gets overwhelming and you need to kind of step down or get quiet or take walks. Because it's rough. I think even for people who've done it a million times, but certainly the first couple of times, it opens the door for fear and doubt and worry and stuff. So thank you for all of you for being so frank about that process. So in the Q&A time, somebody had a question, which you hear a lot, where, first-time directors can frequently be asked to step aside so they could get somebody more experienced to come in and help get the money and the cast. I mean, I think all of you are a testament to how well it worked for you, but people are asking, what do you say to that when somebody comes in and asks you to do that?
Say no. I mean, there was a moment in which we had somebody who was really interested in the script and not in us directing it. And we were like, well, this could be a first step to get into the industry, because it was an international production that was interesting from the US actually. And we were like, this really, it's like when you flip a coin, like, do I want a pizza or a hamburger? And you just flip a coin and then just it shows pizza, but I really want a hamburger. So I think that those moments make you feel where you are at. And I think that if you really want to direct, say no. I mean, maybe the film won't get done ever, but at least you tried it. At least you tried it. You have to try. You have to go for it. You have to, if you really want to direct the script that you wrote, just say that you're attached to the story and you'll be surprised. Some people will say yes.
I love that. There's a question here for Savannah and AV about, I hope this is okay. Are either one of you, did you come at creating your characters more from love, or did you personally have experiences with motherhood and or foster care?
It came from love for me. Yeah, I'm not a mother at this time. I didn't come from foster care. I just had a deep compassion for people that have come from that experience, and then just also appreciation for mothers, for my mom, and mothers like her who just really had to fight tooth and nail for everything that their family and that their children had, regardless of whether or not anybody fought for them.
Yeah, I'm not a mother myself, but I have a lot of touch points into the story. This story kind of started on this scene in the middle of the film, which is between the adoptive sister and Gia. And I don't know if you've seen the film, but if you have seen the film, this scene is very much taking from emotion moments in a moment in my own life, and various scenes have. So yeah, I guess I'm kind of loosely relating to it in various ways, but the specific story is also fictional, and we draw from these emotional moments in our lives and then fictionalize it to kind of I don't know, maybe it makes it easier to say it. I don't know I don't know why we fictionalize it, other than it's a story. But yeah.
You guys are great storytellers. That's why. And it's something that stuck with you. I think that's great. All right. So, okay, several of these questions sort of dovetail. It has a lot to do with chicken and egg. So did you have the financing first and then got the distribution? Did the distribution come first and that drove the financing? And did the distribution come in before you finished the film? So this is a lot of, again, sort of those process questions about the process each of you went through to kind of put these pieces together.
Well, for us, it was like what we said earlier. It was just the script, and the script. And we showed the script. We didn't do it. We did everything the other way around. And after we sent the script, producer said yes, and then he got some funding after a few years, but then we got turned down a lot for a long time for other fundings. And then he came up to us, if I remember correctly, Sebastian, he said like, okay, guys, so we only have this amount of money. Do you want to do it or not? And we said, yes, we still want to do it. And so we jumped in and did it. And then other things started falling into place. So for us, it was mostly about just going for it all the way and just not stopping. Yeah.
And film festivals, distribution came up after we
Mm.
showed the film in film festivals, and people were like, I want to show this in this region and this other. But we went to the first film festival without knowing if our film was going to show any other place than that film festival we went to. It was just, this is where we're going to show the movie, and that's it. And then there's a lot happening with distributors, people who really are looking for films. So it was there when all the international thing happened.
Okay, so for the several people who asked that question, that's one way. They went to film festivals, and that's what created the distribution. And then the rest of you, like, you want to talk about, was it hand in hand? Did financing come first? Did anybody else have the film festival experience?
I guess. Oh, were you about to speak, Gaby? Sorry. Okay. Yeah, for me, it was a different way around. It was financing was kind of like the first step of distribution, because our financiers were A24 and Film 4, and A24 was also doing the US distribution. But then at the festival at Sundance, that's when we started getting or that's when the world, is it world distribution? Am I saying that correctly? The rest of the world's distribution came on board. But we kind of had everything locked in place before the festivals, which was, I feel multiple ways about that. Like, sometimes I'm kind of jealous at the people hearing how their films got fought over at the festival, and that sounds really cool, but I didn't have that experience. But I also felt like the experience of going to a festival and just kind of enjoying, not worrying about its distribution, and just kind of enjoying the experience of showing the film was also really nice. So yeah, I thought both ways seem really great.
Raven, did you have financing and distribution hand in hand, or?
Yes, I did. And we had that after we partnered with Pastel and we brought the script to A24. That's when they came on as the financiers and distributors and distributor. So yeah, it was hand in hand.
That's wonderful. That's another great, very hopeful story that those things can happen. Anyone else, or should I go to one of the? There's still a lot of questions coming in. So
I can just say that, at least for my experience is so weird and so different, because we premiered at South by, and then the thing is, we didn't realize that we didn't have distribution from the get-go. We just had our own financing. And when we premiered at South by, we just kind of realized actually buyers aren't there to buy Spanish-speaking films at South by. It was South by is an incredible festival, but the buyers they weren't kind of interested in us. So for a very long time, we haven't had distribution. And it was really, honestly, the Spirit Award nominations that kind of put us back on the map for distribution. So I have a lot to be thankful for being here, because we're now pretty close to having distribution. So it's been a weird one, but you know, hopefully it's gonna go to theater soon.
Oh, congratulations. Oh, that makes me very happy. You know, it's an added benefit to the spotlight that Film Independent and what they try to do to highlight filmmakers from everywhere. I love that. That's great. And Avi, I think you said it came sort of close together, financing and distribution, or am I wrong?
Yeah, I think it was similar to how Raven put it, you know, kind of went hand in hand. Focus Features and Universal are the ones that released my film domestically and internationally. And so once they came on as our partners, everything fell in place.
So for the people listening who were asking that sort of myriad of questions, I think that pretty much tells you that there is no set way, and you're going to discover it on your own journey with your film. And I think that that's been true every year that this conversation happens. There's 100 ways to get to it. You just keep going until it gets there. So a couple of questions about the budgets, to whatever degree anybody is comfortable about that. The budgets of your individual films. And if you'd rather not, we can keep it moving and I can go on to the next question. Under 5, under whatever. Yeah, okay. Off we go. Then there are questions about, well, one question about, did you have to change or lose anything to move forward with your film? And how did you feel about, you know, that impact in the long run?
I'll say for me, one thing that changed is that initially I thought we would shoot the film in Tennessee, which is where I'm from. But we found a church location, Rose Hill Church, after I saw some photographs by Bill Ferris that I location scouted, and it was just an amazing location. And the church is in Mississippi, and we ended up structuring the film around that location and using it as a key location of the film. And my mom is from Mississippi. And so in a film that deals so much with lineage and what's passed from generation to generation, it ended up being a gift that the film was shot in Mississippi rather than Tennessee.
Oh, that's beautiful. Where in Mississippi is Rose Hill?
It's in Vicksburg.
Okay. Really? So really a portrait of our origins. My God. Okay. And then another question, which all of you, I'd love for all of you to include, like where you shot your film and how do you feel like that gave whatever extra something to you for being able to shoot where you shot? Anyone? All of you?
Well, I mean, I shot my movie on the streets of New York, and you know, this was such a hometown story, and being as authentic as possible in depicting this world was so important to me. And shooting on the streets of Harlem, on the streets of Brooklyn, and so forth, like all of that was really pivotal to telling the story. There's no way I would have been able to cheat anything else as New York. I just had to just lay the camera, you know, down on the sidewalk. Or standing on the sidewalk, I guess maybe, but but I think that was really important, and it's so much of it is about the way the landscape of the city has changed, so that there's no other way that I could have told the story, even if I wanted to shoot it elsewhere for any, you know, production reasons or so forth. But it makes it that much more special and that much more of a document, because yeah, this is a fictional story, but it is so much about just like what New York was at the turn of the century, and the way it's changed. And so being able to really, like, I'll always have this movie, like, or we, you know, just people, anybody who watches the movie will always have this to look back at, to just talk about like what the city was at this period in time, you know. So to do it against a flat or in Toronto or somewhere in LA would have been nuts, you know. So I'm happy that the movie can be a part of that, just like in the way that it can distill what New York, 125th. I saw somebody say that. But yeah, not only celebrating what New York was at the turn of the century, but obviously we shot it, you know, just a few years ago now, and documenting what New York is now in that way too, because you know it's going to be gone at a certain point. The city just changing so dramatically and so swiftly. So that's something that I'm very grateful for and proud of.
I would love everyone to answer that same question, and then we're almost done.
I'll go. I shot in the Bay Area, everywhere from Treasure Island to Vallejo. If you're from the Bay, you'll know. If you're not, you probably won't. But it was really important to the story. It was like very nostalgic for me because I spent a lot of my life in the Bay, and you know, everything from the location, the textures, to the music. The like a lot, if you're from the Bay, you know these tracks, but like most people won't know them. And that was there's like all these little fun Easter eggs that I could put in the film and like have it feel like home, you know. And that's, I think someone made a comment somewhere about New York being a character in your story, AV, but I feel like that probably with everybody's film here is like that in a way. It's like that is such an important character in your story. And so yeah, that's where it was shot in the Bay and it felt like a character.
Tomas?
I was talking and nobody could hear me. So yeah, we shot the film in a teeny tiny town in the province of Buenos Aires, and there's like 200 inhabitants. And I wrote the story with this place in mind. So it's different. You know, I knew that was the heartbeat of the film because I spent so much time in like my teenage years and like early 20s visiting this place. And I knew its people, I knew the pace of the town, I knew the way the sun sets and the way the night the sounds of the night and stuff like that. So I could write all of that stuff right into the script, and really be a character. And the thing is, it's incredibly isolated place. In itself, it's almost like a ghost town because the only way to get to it is through like a 40-minute drive through a dirt road. There's like a single dirt road into this town. So it's, you know, for me, so much of the inspiration for the movie comes from Latin American magical realism literature, particularly Garcia Marquez and Allende. And so and the idea of like a town like Macondo and Garcia Marquez's work, a fictional town that kind of holds space for all these characters and imaginary beings to intertwine, was kind of like the driving force. I knew I wanted to shoot there. I knew I wanted it to be a character in the film, and we you know, jumped over a lot of hurdles to be able to shoot there because it was not easy. But it was, I think at the end of the day, it made me at least feel like we brought it to the screen in the way it deserved to be.
Great. And Juan and Alejandro?
We build our thing in a tiny studio because we wanted to shoot it happens in the US and we shot it in Spain. But it was pretty much that place that comes from our nightmares, which is American police and border control. And you know, it's not, you know, it's horrible as European is for everyone who comes from the south part of the world. But I think what we made, I remember there was this guy who came from the local television, to shot an interview, and he told us that he was stopped by the police border control in Miami, and he was like, "Well, this just looks exactly like that." And I think we built it, but we definitely brought it from our memories of being there many hours just when we wanted to go to, I don't know, a concert, visit family, friends, or take a picture. And I think it came from there. It really became a real a real also a character. When you shoot 90% of your movie in one single location, it becomes the fifth character of the interrogation.
That's you guys. Again, I'm just going to say to the whole audience listening out there, if you haven't seen All Dirt Roads Taste of Salt, 1001, Upon Entry, Chronicles of a Wandering Saint, and Earth Mama, you're cheating yourselves, because they're all extraordinary films with something to say and beautifully made. And these directors are seriously to be applauded for getting these movies made the way they wanted. So thank you everyone for listening in, and I hope everyone felt like their questions got asked and answered. And thank you all so much for agreeing to do this today.